Hello guys, my name is Abuga Aroni. Today I'm reviewing the ZM1 trucks from Rogue Trucks. And yeah, welcome. Now guys, there's actually a lot to talk about with these trucks. So there's an in-depth accompanying write-up. That's 3,000 words that actually the guys over at Instagram made me write. So if you want to have a in-depth understanding of what these trucks do read it. Highly recommend it. Wrote it myself. Link in the description. And before we actually go into the review, I just want to make one thing clear. I am biased. I really like these trucks. And I really want other people to try them. Like, if I had the option, I'd be sending these trucks around the world for people to try for a day or two so I can hear what the experiences are with them. These trucks are incredible, and because of that, I am biased. I also did get a pretty hefty discount on these trucks, and that probably doesn't help the biasness. But I will try to temper um, any emotion trying to like sell these trucks to you or whatever. I don't even get like a commission or anything like that, but I do like them, so do keep that in mind. But before we go too far, I want to answer a few questions. I know people are going to ask me this. Abuga, do you think the ZM1s are game changing? And my answer to that question is yes, but also mostly no. I mean, if you're already skating at the highest level, making the most out of your wheels, I don't think the ZM1s are going to necessarily up your game all that much. They do offer some other performance benefits over other trucks, but they're not necessarily going to allow you to be a you'd switch things up like too much. You're pretty much going to be doing the same things, just a little bit more comfortably or a little bit more at ease. But I do think they are not game changing, but they are going to be a significant upgrade for the average rider. For the average rider, you may feel sometimes held back by your trucks, by what's under your feet. They may not necessarily have appropriate performance characteristics for you. I do think for the average rider, if they have ZM1s, they are no longer going to be held back by what's under their feet. And that's important because it's going to allow them to become the best rider that they can be. They have a really high performance ceiling where you don't necessarily need to be the best rider to get the best out of them. Okay, so first order of business, let's talk about how they turn. These trucks have a very quick dive. They want to change a direction very quickly, and they turn very aggressively. But even with that aggressive turn, they very quickly tap out of that turn. That's because of the narrow hanger width rather, the standard barrel bushings, and the 12 millimeters of rig. They dive quickly, but they quickly tap out of that turn. If I had to compare them with another truck, I'd actually compare them with the Paris trucks. Paris also have a truck that wants to turn aggressively but quickly taps out of that turn. But in Paris's case, they have a very restrictive bushing seat towards the end of lean. So yeah. And how does this aggressive turn affect taking a corner? So if you're already sort of making the most out of your wheels, you may not necessarily find too many performance benefits with the ZM1. But if you're not able to make the most out of your wheels, you may find yourself turning into the corner later because you can make a better line with the aggressive turning. Find yourself hitting that apex a little bit easier and taking a little bit better of an exit line. But at speed, surprisingly, this turning isn't that much of a problem. You will certainly have to make sort of lighter inputs because of how aggressive they are with the turning. Like, you don't have to have a very big deliberate input to get your truck to change direction. No, you just need to sort of lean and turn to have a light input to further your input, and these trucks are gonna do what you want them to do. Some other trucks like Gold Rogue slaloms or some other ones that the name escapes me at the moment, you have to have a very deliberate input to get them to change direction. With these, they do have a big center, so if you don't put anything into them, they're just going to want to keep going straight, and in that way, they're extremely stable. But you don't need that much of a strong input to get them to dive. And you are going to need to be a little bit lighter with your input. There is going to be a bit of an adjustment period, but it's not that crazy, if I'm being honest. The way I could describe it is you're not really on a knife's edge. You're sort of like on a plank, and then when you want to tilt to the right, the plank tilts with you. If that makes sense. Yeah. But yeah, these trucks are extremely stable. They do want to keep going straight and they will keep going straight unless you give them a deliberate input left or right. They do reflect a little bit more bump steer than other trucks, but if you do set them up correctly, um, that becomes much less of a problem. In fact, with the way I have them set up at the moment, they do ride over road imperfections, but they don't sort of impact my stability, or they don't really make my feet shift around all that much. Like, I feel it, but it goes away pretty quickly. But yeah, despite being the big coward that I am, I would very happily take these trucks 70 miles per hour. They're extremely confidence inspiring. But I will also talk about why they're confidence inspiring, what characteristic of theirs lends that confidence later on in the video. Next topic of discussion is how these trucks slide. So these trucks actually have a really nice slide, but if you don't set them up correctly, which I'll talk about how to do it, sometimes it feels like they want to ice out or you have to slide at a weird angle in order to get proper grip from your wheels. But when you just set them up nice, they have a very nice slide at all angles. But yeah, the slide feels very, very smooth, and I think because of the no slope and how narrow they are, it actually feels like I'm sliding or all four wheels. On other trucks, sometimes it feels like I'm only sliding three wheels, like one wheel lifts up at the back or whatever, or my weight placement is weird. But with these, it feels like I'm able to get grip and slow down power from all four wheels at the same time. It feels more in the pavement, as my friend Julian described when sliding wheels. My other favorite feature of these wheels is how they feel at the limit, right? So because of the quad sphericals or double sphericals in each truck, you have a better feel of what your wheels are doing at the limit of traction. You can tell when your wheels are gripping, you can tell when your wheels are slipping, and you can tell when you're scrubbing, which is like a state in between both when you're about to start sliding. And this is extremely advantageous for a couple of reasons. So number one, maybe I'm wrong about this one, but it allows you to pull off like really low angle slides, so you don't have to sort of kick out all the way to feel your wheel sliding. You can sort of keep that angle of sliding very, very low. And this also lends to a smoother hookup. You can be more gentle regaining traction, and a smoother hookup allows you to then carry more speed into the corner because you can keep your wheels loaded throughout the whole sort of phase. Anyway, I digress. So advantage number two, you can ride that edge of traction. Basically, because you're getting more accurate feedback of what your wheels are doing. You know when you're scrubbing, you know when you've taken a bad line, you know when you've sort of carried too much speed, and you're able to adjust. And with this information, it allows you to ultimately carry faster speed through the corner. Super, super nice. And the other thing is, because now you know what your wheels are doing, it's very confidence inspiring. On other trucks where it feels a little bit gray, it feels a little bit murky, it's not very confidence inspiring. Like, it's pretty spooky to like throw a slide or to take a corner. But with these, because you know exactly what your wheels are doing, you get that confidence to do what it is you want to do. The way I had to describe all of this is like finally getting prescription glasses after having murky vision your whole life. It's a different experience altogether. Another super cool feature of these trucks is actually, out of the narrower trucks that I've tried, they're the most freerideable. So it's really cool. You can go be the best downhill skateboarder you can be, then you can turn around and have a freeride session of these. Of course, because of how narrow they are, you are limited to slightly wider wheels. But I have gotten away with running some narrow wheels, but your mileage may vary, of course. And the reason I think they're so good at freeriding is because of the standard barrel bushings and the quad sphericals. So the quad sphericals have no slope, so you have a pretty defined edge of traction. You know when your wheels are starting to slide. And because of the standard barrels, the hanger doesn't really want to tip mid slide. With other trucks that use tall bushings, sometimes it feels like if you're not perfectly balanced, the board wants to low side or high side, and you have to recover. You have to be really on your game in order to free ride those trucks pretty well. But with these, you can get away with making a few mistakes, and they're pretty forgiving. So yeah, it's really nice that I can stand up slide them, and I think it's super sick. And now let me talk about another thing. Are these trucks hard to ride? Not really. I think there is a bit of an adjustment period, like how turny they are. With how turny they are, sometimes like when you're starting out, you're surprised by it. Like the board can turn so aggressively and then your body is left like behind, like it's really weird. You do need a bit of an adjustment period, but I don't think they're that hard to ride, especially if you set them up correctly, and I'll talk about setup later in the video. But no, I don't think they're difficult to ride. I think anybody can ride them, and I think they're actually extremely confidence inspiring. And one of the characteristics that makes them so confidence inspiring is how predictable and consistent they are. The only other trucks that have felt this predictable and consistent are Ronin's and Valkyrie slalom trucks. But I feel these take it a notch higher. And here's how I think they're achieving that consistency and predictability. So with these trucks, the hanger is only moving on one plane. There is no slop, it's fixed into that one plane. And because you only have two urethane parts, you don't have like a pivot cup or like an insert bushing giving you rebound or giving you random feedback as you articulate these hangers. You just have the bushings, which are able to give you really consistent and predictable feedback. And I think they're able to give you this consistent and predictable feedback because they only squish on sort of one plane or one direction. They don't have to deal with side to side yaw or anything like that. So in that sense, they're able to give you that predictable and consistent feel. And it is extremely confidence inspiring because when you're skating, you're no longer thinking, oh, if I take this turn too aggressively, my trucks are gonna wobble. Or, oh, maybe my trucks might do some other weird shit when I take this turn. No, you can rely on your trucks to be consistent and predictable and not be a factor in limiting your skating anymore. Anyway, that's my theory. I don't know if it's right, but that's how it feels. But I did give these trucks to one of the biggest cowards that I know. Shout out, you know yourself. So he has a small blind, smoky setup. I hope he watches this video. And I love the guy, but he's such a coward. As soon as a truck sort of feels unpredictable, he gets super spooked out and really holds back. But with my setup that I lent to him for about 4 runs, I think, he was like already sending it on the 3rd run. He was commenting on how stable it was, how much easier it was for him to take corners, how nicer they felt in the slides, how predictable they were. And genuinely think if he had this set of trucks and not the Smokies, he'd be a much better rider right now. Some trucks just have slight inconsistencies that can, I feel, hold back your progression because they spook you. But yeah. But before I talk about setup, let's talk about the quad sphericals and whether they give you a very rough ride or not. So for majority of my skating, like 95% of skating, I haven't really had a problem with these trucks. Yes, the ride on some roads is a little bit harsher, but it's only on the roughest of roads, stuff that I don't really like skating that much anyway, that these things suck, but they're manageable on most roads. What also impacts how you feel on most rough roads is going to be your wheels also. So if you're riding something like Seismic 74 Alpha, whatever, that are really dense and reflect a lot of road vibration, you're going to have a tricky time on these trucks. I will say also that they do have bump steer. The bump steer isn't all that much, but you do sort of feel what you ride over. It doesn't affect stability all that much, again depending on how you set it up, but you do feel it. So yeah, but I still think for majority of people these trucks are going to ride. So now let's talk about how to set these trucks up. So these trucks come stock pretty much like this, and I think for the majority of people this is going to give you a pretty decent riding experience, but I do think you should experiment and try other things, namely trying a cone in the front truck. So some people have had good experiences with a blue cone or a pink cone, but my favorite adjustment is simply going with a smaller flat washer in the front, and that gives me the best all-around performance. So the blue cone is actually really sick. So it gives you a much larger center point actually than the pink truck, so it's a little bit better. But because it is a cone shape, when it does come to articulating the trucks, it does turn a little bit better. It does turn a little bit deeper. It handles bump steer better also, which was like a pretty big surprise. So yeah, it's just all around more stable and more turny than the standard barrel setup. But I personally had problems with skating my board at the limit with the cone in the front. With the cone, as you get to that sort of deep articulation, it kind of felt like it allowed the truck to turn a little bit deeper, and what it felt like is like my back truck couldn't necessarily keep up with that aggressive turning. So sometimes I'd go over the limit quite suddenly also, and generally sort of riding on that sort of scrub limit, I didn't enjoy it all that much. But a lot of people are making it work. I haven't skated it as much as I would like, but yeah, you just gotta try it. It feels really good. I will say, I think in a situation where there's a lot of tuck leaning, the blue cone might be a really good option. However, my favorite choice was the small flat washer. So I got a lot of similar performance to the stock setup, but I got slightly better turning at the limit, more consistent initiation into the slides. Sometimes with the flat washer, I find like at the limit, like the hanger is bouncing between the top and bottom bushing. With the smaller flat washer, it feels like the hanger wants to compress and stay in that compressed state a little bit better, which gave me smoother initiation and smoother hookup from slides, which I really liked. It handled bump steer a little bit better, and generally just felt so much more consistent at that edge of traction. So I highly recommend you try the small flat washer. This is my go-to of skating. All my setups have this thing, and yeah, I highly recommend it. Another key thing in setting up your Rogue ZM1 trucks is to have a wheelbase of 20 inches or lower. When I was trying to get used to these trucks, I put them on my 21-inch wheelbase because that's what I'd been skating all my other trucks on. But I was having quite the difficult time. I wasn't able to get the board to rotate under me the way I wanted it to, like come under me, and it was harder. It was harder to do slides. Like I had to be very aggressive with my kick out, very aggressive with my initiation, and the hookup was quite aggressive as well. I just didn't feel like I had as much control as I wanted to. Wheels also felt quite grippy, but it didn't necessarily make them all that more grippy. Finally, in slides, it felt like I had to slide at a specific angle. Otherwise, I would just start icing out, or I wouldn't slow down as much as I wanted to. The slides didn't feel as consistent. And another big thing that I felt limited on was sort of riding the edge of traction. Because I wasn't able to get the trucks to turn under me the way I wanted them to, it felt difficult to ride that edge of traction. Instead of scrubbing, my board would just take a wider line. I felt like I had no agency or control over what my wheels were doing. I kind of felt at the mercy of my setup. So yeah, and that's not nice. Like I don't want to wash out. I don't want to go into the other lane. It's dangerous, bro. It's it's tricky. Pretty much just using a 20-inch wheelbase fixed all of those issues. So slides, number one, slides, I felt like it could hold a really low angle or really low high angle and have like the same amount of braking power. I was able to get the board to turn under me the way I wanted it to, riding the edge of traction instead of just going wider. I was now able to sort of get the wheels to scrub. What else? I was able to get smoother initiation, like the wheels still feel grippy, but like I feel way more in control, and kick out and hook up is much smoother. So yeah, do use a 20-inch wheelbase. I think majority of people riding these trucks are using wheelbases of 20 inches and less. Even tall people, I think Harry Clark runs 19 inches, I could be wrong, or 20 inches, I'm not sure, but yeah, maybe he'll leave a comment, maybe he's watching this video. Yeah, stability wise, I didn't get any less stable. My board didn't get any more twitchy. Like there was pretty much no difference after 2 sessions. It was just benefits. So yeah, highly recommend 20-inch wheelbase. And finally, let me talk about one thing that may plague you with these trucks or may not. So you know how with your trucks you're supposed to tighten the kingpin until you can't spin the washer by hand. Well, on these trucks, if you do that, you're gonna get instability. You might get instability, you might get twitching, you might get crazy bump steer, and here's why. So on my trucks, right, if I was to just tighten until the kingpin can't spin, the hangers wouldn't actually be engaging the bushings off the jump properly. There's actually a sort of dead zone where you're really just floating between the two sphericals. Shout out Owen Fox for pointing this out to me. And let me show you an exaggerated example of that. This dead zone is terrible because you're not really engaging your bushings, right? And when you're not engaging your bushings, you're not really getting the benefits of what the bushings provide, basically, right? So at speed, this can lead to at least for me, I got like micro wobbles, or like my hanger was just doing this, and it just felt really weird and really scary. So yeah, if you're struggling with stability in this truck, and trust me, these trucks are very stable, or you're getting a lot of bump steer, like you ride over a pebble and the shock is like quite aggressive, that like it shifts your back foot, maybe this is what you're dealing with, and this is how you deal with it. So the best way to do this is to put your trucks on your board and make sure they have wheels. I'm not going to do any of that because I'm very lazy. So what you do, you tighten your truck until you can't spin the washer by hand. And then this is a very exaggerated example, by the way, because I haven't done it all properly. So once you've tightened your truck till you can't spin the washer by hand, you take your hand and you try to articulate the truck. If you feel like a weird space where the truck isn't engaging the bushings, you then tighten it until you feel the hanger engaging the bushings with the lightest of your articulation. Then what you're then going to do, you're then going to go stand on your board, articulate it back and forth a bit with your weight, squish back and forth, whatever, and then come back to this same position. You need to do this because sometimes your hangers don't sit properly into your hanger, or sorry, sit properly into your base plate unless you do weight them. And that happens with all trucks. So once you've done that, come back and repeat the process. Check if the hanger is articulating without with a pretty light touch, and then just turn your kingpin until you feel the hanger compress the bushings of the lightest of touches, and there you've solved that issue. You then get better stability, better performance, whatever. It feels great. Now, this may not happen on your set of trucks, but it may happen on other people's set of trucks. I haven't talked to Venom to see if this is a defect or anything like that. So yeah, that said, it's just not a problem with ZM1s. I think with other trucks, it is a bit of an issue, but I think with ZM1s, because of the sphericals, it's most noticeable. As a rule of thumb, I think personally, I'm just going to start doing this on all my trucks. Try to eliminate that dead zone in your back truck. The front truck, it kind of has it, but it's not really a problem, so I haven't really bothered to try and mess about with it. So yeah. And finally, the other thing you want to do is you want to clean your trucks often enough. This is because you have two sphericals. Now, I don't know how easy sphericals are to replace. I know the insert spherical, you can just buy like a bunch and you'll be good. But the pivot spherical, I think it's pretty tricky to replace. I don't know how easy it is to remove. So you're going to want to keep that thing clean. Personally, I'm cleaning my trucks at least once every 3 weeks to a month. But I think my situation is quite unique. Kenya is a very dusty place. There's a lot of loose soil, loose sand, whatever, and that very easily gets onto the exposed parts of the pivots and even onto the inserts. So to prevent them from sort of gumming up, I do try to clean it fairly often. So I do say, do clean your trucks. And as we come to the conclusion of this review, what are some things I really didn't like about these trucks? Actually, there's not a lot I didn't like about these trucks. Like, I think they actually combine like a lot of features I've enjoyed in other trucks into one truck, and I think this is the ultimate downhill truck for downhill 254, ultimate downhill 254 skating. Anyway, here are things that I didn't like. So number one, the dead zone. This is a weird issue to deal with. So yeah, that said, with the dead zone, one more tip is if you're on a road that doesn't need a lot of stability, you can actually loosen up the back truck a tiny bit to give yourself a little bit more turning. It's pretty nice, but then the sliding does get a little bit weird. You do get a bit of a more aggressive hookup, but you do get more turning. I think on Maryhill though, I wouldn't be tightening the back truck as much, just sort of maximize how much turning I'd get in corners. Anyway, the other thing I didn't like is that I don't think I really want to skate these, or in the rain. Like, I'm sure it's possible, but I don't know about the maintenance. Like, I'll ask around about maintenance of the rain skating in the rain. But yeah, I don't know how much I'd want to deal with that or risk it. Basically, the other thing is that you can't ride the roughest of roads, and why this is kind of annoying. The rain skating and the rough road part is like I have other downhill trucks that I'm now keeping as a backup. I don't want to have trucks that I'm not going to be skating. So it's kind of annoying because I'm not going to sell them because they're backup, but I also really want to sell them because I could spend it on something else. So that is kind of annoying. So yeah, pretty honestly, negligible, annoying things. So yeah. Last but not least, are these the best quad spherical slalom trucks in the business? I don't know. There are a lot of other companies making similar style trucks like 161 slalom trucks, Robot Oblivion trucks, or the Dane Hanna Pro trucks, and I haven't skated them. I can't tell you how good they are, but they're quite similar to this, and people on those trucks are actually killing the game. So, yeah, these are the best trucks that I've tried, but they're not the only trucks that out there that have similar characteristics. So, yeah. So yeah, that's the end of the video. But yeah, I actually did sell my Ronins so that I could buy these trucks. So my Ronins are gone. They're in the UK with a young man who's enjoying them very much. But yeah, thank you, Zach Matum. He also did give me a discount and a lot of other bits and pieces on these trucks, which was quite nice. And yeah, let me know what you guys think. If you've skated the ZM1s before, do leave a comment. I'm interested to hear your experience with them. So yeah, thanks for watching and I'll catch you guys in the next video.